You don't know what's out there.
That's why I would go.
Hi, and welcome back to Wild Dream, where we give you the freshest takes on the latest movies. My name is David.
My name is Daniel.
My name's Natalia.
That's right, guys. We have a very special guest back on the pod for the first time in a long time, no time. Is that what they say? Long time, no time?
Nope.
Is that what they say?
Hey, lazy dog don't piss outside, brother.
Long time no D.
Me and Daniel made up a new phrase.
We have a
the
new
other day
phrase.
while we were at a restaurant that you'll probably guess based on that phrase. And the whole idea is that the phrase means, you know, I am who I am, so I do what I do.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, how come you still, you know, smoking cigarettes out of one of those long tubes? Hey man, because the lazy dog don't piss outside.
Hey, lazy dog don't piss outside, bro.
I am who I am. I do what I do.
Damn, you still got that old ass TV on? What you doing? Hey, lazy dog don't piss outside, nephew. Come on, man. Am I gonna get canceled for that?
Yes.
Lazy dog don't piss outside, and then they do say good girl and good boy outside the restroom, so at least you have some affirmation there. There's not enough affirmation outside of restrooms.
Now I'm thinking, do they call white uncles unk? Or is
All
it
right,
only
we gotta
black uncles?
stop talking about unk because you will get canceled.
Like
for
the
that.
uncle in this movie, they're not calling it, hey, unk.
Yeah.
Hey, blood, calm down.
But no, it's not a white or black uncle gets called unk. It is the white or black nephew or niece. Black nieces and nephews call their uncles unk regardless of the uncle's race.
So what about cuz? C's up, B's down?
All right, fuck the movie we saw. Let's get into this.
Let's get into this
Let's get into this.
gang-related
Black people be like this.
activity.
White people be like this. No one's ever made content like this.
White people be like, black people be like, yeah, just Vine 2013 all over again.
Just all of Key and Peele for the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, honestly.
Jordan really took off.
Yeah, but we're here to talk about a movie.
We're here to talk about a movie, and I mean, you guys saw the title. We are back with the 6th iteration of Final Destination. Bloodlines is the name of this one. Bloodlines. Now,
Lines of blood.
Final Destination, if you guys don't remember, it was a very middle of the road, don't say anything yet, Natalia, middle of the road horror franchise that was around the same time. So it's like, when you think of the horror franchises, like let's do it like this. Scream is like the higher end of like beloved and like well known. And then you have like on the very far end is probably I Know What You Did Last Summer, which they're also rebooting soon. And then right in the middle between those two would be like Final Destination series. And then all the other horror series are somewhere in that spectrum, I think. This is another one, you know, that primarily focuses around teenagers and, you know, similar to those other series. And horror and death and, you know, whatever else. Now, obviously, I say like Scream is way up there. It's like to this day, every single year you will find, you know, Ghostface costumes and, you know, merch and,
You're forgetting Jason
Voorhees,
Voorhees,
whatever.
Halloween.
That is not the 2000s. That's all from the 80s, 90s. I would put that in the same realm as like Halloween and Chucky and all those, like the serial killer ones. I'm talking about teenage series about death and or murder.
Yeah, Nat, don't try and challenge the autistic guy on categorization of horror movies in years.
I will never challenge David again.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Didn't think so. Respect your elders, little boy.
Respect your elders, little boy. Let me get this straight.
So,
Final Destination.
That is how I perceive Final Destination. I don't think that they are terrible movies. I don't think they're fantastic movies. I think they are interesting, and I think that the primary reason that people watch them is to see the interesting, cool kills. It is like 1,000 Ways to Die before 1,000 Ways to Die existed. It's the horror version of 1,000 Ways to Die. And so
it's the appreciation of the plot.
Yeah. And so it is a movie series that the most, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Daniel, because this is your autistic power.
Yes.
The last Final Destination before this one was 2011, correct?
Let's see, 2009, 2011, yep.
Okay. So 2011, it has been 14 years since the last Final Destination. And
14.
They're like, we got to do it again.
It's all the rage right now.
Have we heard this before? And more often than not, I prey on the downfall of a lot of these remakes. A lot of these, like, hey, let's just do another one of these. You know,
yes,
whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when the new Strangers movie was coming out, which I did not see and I haven't heard anyone talk about. I was like, I remember telling Dan, I said, I hope this movie is the least profitable movie of all time. Like, I hope it breaks records for the least profitable movie. They lost more money on this movie than any other movie. That is how fucking useless and worthless a Strangers reboot was. Because it wasn't just that they were like, let's do Strangers again. They were like, let's restart Strangers and start a series.
Yeah.
And make it a
Much of a good
franchise.
thing, yeah.
And I was like, fuck off.
They always do that. Cash grab, cash grab.
Cash grab. So this one, I was like, I was a little hesitant. I was like, is this going to be that? Is this a reboot of Strangers type of situation? Is this because when they redid Scream or they started doing Scream again, I kind of liked it. I was like, okay, this feels like their own set of movies, right? With, you know, the Jenna Ortega ones. And it's like, okay, well, this newest one feels like a sequel to the previous one, even though, you know, they're like 5 and 6 or whatever. This one isn't quite that because there's no characters in the movie that are, you know, recurring from the previous movies, but everything that happens in the previous movies does get referenced and mentioned in this movie a lot. So that's kind of where we're at with this one, right? Now, here are the extreme opinions that you're going to hear on this podcast today. My name is David. I believe this movie was all right. Natalia?
My name is Natalia. And listen, I couldn't be happier to be in that theater. I didn't want the movie to end. I have reached nirvana. I love Final Destination, and this exceeded my expectations. They really stuck true to the brand.
And Daniel?
I thought this movie was a dog shit piece of trash, and I wasted a Friday afternoon.
So, that is...
You idiot. Okay. You stupid bitch.
And as per usual, if you guys are new to Natalia episodes, she is in charge of the soundboard today.
I'm really bad at it.
And we think no, you could not be worse than me and Dan. It's not possible.
That's true, actually.
Me and Dan forget it's here 99% of the time. And half the time we go, did you bring the laptop? And like, no. All right, whatever. Who cares? No one,
my issues
fucking listens to this fucking podcast anyway.
You definitely can't be worse than David and Dan.
I'm doing the
Producer note. So that is where we're at with this podcast. So you guys know going into it, I am your host. I am your mediator. Here are my guests today. We have the furthest ends of the spectrum. Natalia loved this movie. Daniel hated this movie. I was, in the middle.
I'll have you guys know this is the only time that David has been a mediator of anything. He's always at the end of two extremes. This is the first.
That's true.
That's extremely true.
Yeah.
That's extremely fucking true. That's extremely the most fucking true thing has ever been.
I will die on this hill. That's so true.
This is so fucking true. This is so fucking true. Now, to give some context also to these opinions is me and Daniel watched the Final Destination movies growing up. I have rewatched them as an adult. Daniel has not rewatched them as an adult. And Natalia watches these movies all the time.
Yeah, so I know the most, so that's why my opinion matters.
You should give a little background to your love for the franchise.
All right, so the background actually started. It's a little deep actually. Let me get into it. The reason why I fell in love with Final Destination is because I was so misheard as a child that people always thought that I was crazy. And to hear a plot line of somebody such as the star of the Stan music video. What's his name? Hold on, let me Google
Devon Sawa.
Devon Sawa.
Sawa. That's okay. Well, there was this when we were younger.
I'm like breaking down crying over here. You're like JoJo Siwa.
Mo had... Mo's sister's name is Sarah, right? And she had a friend who had a speech impediment who called her Sewa.
Oh.
And Mo used to make fun of her. Like going, Sewa. So every time I see Devon Sawa's name, which is Sawa, I'm think of Mo saying,
literally Sewa.
Bullying a child going, Sewa. Devon Sawa.
Yeah, well, at least he grew out of that, right? Doesn't bully anymore, right? Yeah.
100%.
My love for Final Destination started when I was a kid, and I used to have these weird premonitions because I'm freaking a witch. I used to have...
Burner! I'm just kidding.
Speak your truth, Queen. Speak your truth.
Way easier.
Ah! I just loved the fact that people thought that nobody had it figured out when the person was right from the very beginning that knew it all was right at the end, and then people got punished for it, which is as morbid as it seems. It's really frustrating being unheard, and also the main character was super hot, so I was like, I gotta watch every single one of these. Unfortunately, he only lasted 2 movies.
What a hunk. Now, they do kind of, the rest of the series, anytime there's a man as the lead, they do try and replicate that same vibe of the look. I noticed that when I was kind of doing a recap for the series. I was like, interesting that they always get a white guy with a nearly bowl cut type haircut.
Looks like he hasn't slept in days.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, so you have a very close connection to the movies. I have known for a while that it's your favorite series. I, like Dave mentioned, I have not watched these again as an adult. I have seen them when I saw them. So first one was in like 2000, second one was in like 2003 or whatever, you know, around that area. So I just watched them as is in the 2000s, and I have not seen them since. I have never seen Final Destination 5. So I want to make that clear, because I'm not even here really to, we can discuss it, but I'm not here to compare this movie to the other ones. Actually, yes, I am. I am here to, because it does provide context. Now, speaking of context, I do want to say the last 2 movies I saw in theaters were Sinners and Thunderbolts, which were both fantastic.
Tough competition.
This is true.
So I want to provide that clarity and that context, because coming off of those 2 movies to this is
And Sacramento before that, by the way.
And Sacramento before that, holy shit, yeah. To this movie was a really jolting experience, and I didn't like it.
All right. Now, here are some opinions I have. So this
And
is
with
how the
that said,
podcast
I'm
gonna
walking
go.
off the pod.
I'm going to start. I'll start. and then
Goodness gracious,
we'll
I have
pivot
no
to
comment.
each side of this, okay? I think that one of the biggest appeals to Final Destination is to go and watch all of the kills. I feel like watching Final Destination kills is like going and watching compilations of fatalities from Mortal Kombat. It's like that level of, let's see how crazy, gruesome, whatever. And I think that one of the things that this movie does that is a real disservice to that aspect of Final Destination that we all love and know is that every single death in the entire movie from beginning to end is CGI. There's not a single practical effect for gore in this entire movie.
I didn't want to cover
We don't know
my
that for
eyes
sure,
once.
but it does look.
Yeah, if any of it is real, it all looks super fake.
Exactly. And I say that because I just watched the producer doing a recap as well. I've been trying to recap myself on the movies. And apparently there's a kill in Final Destination 5 of a spear getting stabbed from behind all the way through a character. And I remember they show it, and I was like, oh, that looks horrible. And he's like, yeah, this was all practical, by the way. And I was like, what? That looked so fake.
Okay.
So I just say that to be careful, because who knows? But yes, I agree that every single aspect of blood and gore and everything in this movie felt and looked like CGI.
Yes,
Yeah.
it felt and looked like CGI, which I think is a disservice, because when it looks and feels fake, then it takes me out of the movie and I can't enjoy the gore, and it makes the gore like more comedic in a way. It's almost like I think of like The Monkey. Like The Monkey is a movie that is supposed to be comedically gory. And even that had a ton of way better looking gore than this movie did.
If your whole thing is having the audience want to cover their eyes and go, you can't make it to the point where you have the audience psychoanalyze why it looked so fake. In a way, it just seemed like a smooth transition of like, okay, that person is dead now, instead of like, oh, I feel what that person is feeling. Even when he steps on the glass, I just felt like, and that's like one of my biggest things is like, I can't do like glass cutting people's flesh. I just can't do it. It makes me cringe. Even him stepping on it, he hops away. Okay, I'm not going to get into that, but it just looks it looks muted in a way, if that's a good word to use.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that this movie does have some comedy in it. I think it was leaning towards the more comedic side of Final Destination, whereas all the other Final Destinations play very straight throughout the entire movie. There are parts that you laugh at it, because of how absurd it is, but not because the movie's trying to make you laugh. And I think at times in this movie they were trying to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it is, you know, they do some things that are like playing into the gimmick of Final Destination, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I think that at certain times I'm just like, well, if you're going to play into the Final Destination thing, well, then let's go all the way. Let's do as I would, if I were the person making this movie, I think I agree. I would go the other way. I would go as practical as possible because, like Natalia said, the whole point is you want to put yourself in that person's shoes and go, oh, like when you think of the ladder kill from Final Destination 2 going into his eyes, you're like, oh, like you want to cover your eyes and you can feel it. But if it was just cut to and it's like a video, it looks like a video game, you're not going to connect to that and then feel that cringe.
Lazy instead of like making the audience want to feel the pain that the death is meant to make you feel. But also, with that being said, I will say the absurdity of having that one single character, it's not a common theme throughout the entire series, but in like 3 movies, there's always that one character that is the comedic relief. And I feel like this one was very well executed. And also nobody in the theater had a sense of humor because we were the only ones like...
Daniel, how did you feel about the comedic aspects of the movie?
I think it's smart to include, and that's one of the positives of the movie for me was there were 2 characters that played brothers, and I thought that they were the only performances in the entire movie that I enjoyed. And it felt like they should have been in a better movie. And that's one of the frustrations that is caused by a positive of the movie. They were funny. They had great dynamic. They had good chemistry, even though they're very 2 different people in terms of their characters and how they behave. But they had really good chemistry. They nailed the comedic timing. They nailed the comedic delivery. But it was like, damn, I wish they were in a different movie because they're great. I want to see more of them and less of everyone and everything else.
They were the most talented of the
I
cast.
loved those 2.
Yeah. I will say, sorry, the points of the movie that I was laughing at the most, I think, were the deaths that they intended to be comedic because of how insane they were. But at the same time, I also found myself laughing at like everything else. Like, I think it is inherently funny that Final Destination is the only movie that can literally push in zoom on anything and play scary music. Mm-hmm. Like they just push in on a brick like into a brick on a brick wall and just goes. It's like, well, it's just a blade of grass.
It's like, yeah, it's Final Destination. They always do that. That's the sound of Final Destination.
Because literally anything can kill anyone. We get it. And I think that they did that a lot intentionally, just to zoom in on literally anything. And like, you know, they did like this whole roulette thing in one of the scenes, which we'll get to in spoiler talk. But I was like, this was actually funny. I like the way that they did this, like, you know, whatever. And I think that, you know, a lot of the things in the comedic aspects of the movie did work well. I can't really tell. So, you know, part of the time I was like, I wish they leaned in more into the comedy. And other times I wish they didn't. Other times I wish they went and just played it completely straight. So I think that they didn't nail the percentage of comedy, I guess, one way or the other.
I'm just going to say right now, the thing that I was the most afraid of walking into this movie was how much they were going to fuck up the thing that I hold tried and true, which was the 1 through 5 series of the theme that is Final Destination. And I will say that I'm very happy that they stuck tried and true, which I can already tell just from the trailer how absurd the kills and stuff were. They stuck tried and true to what Final Destination kills are, which is just absurd, funny because it's so shitty, which is why I love it. And Daniel thinks it's shitty because it is a shitty movie overall, but it's Final fucking Destination. And I'm so happy that they came out with another one that stuck to that theme.
I will agree. I do think that as far as a Final Destination movie goes, they did do the Final Destination thing, which the hard part about it is that, hey, we've seen this 5 times. You know, how do we make something new and interesting out of it? I think they did a pretty good job with the plot line, which again we'll get to in spoiler talk, but of how they set up, like how we know who's going to die next and, you know, when the premonition happens and all these things, that they brought something new to the table. And then you have like Final Destination 3, which just like, you know, completely restarts the franchise in a certain way. And so there's a lot of aspects that go into this movie that make you love it for the Final Destination aspects. But I also understand, like, as just a movie in general, it's like, well, you were like, well, no matter what, people will come and see it because it's Final Destination. So all the other aspects of the movie will just throw to the wayside.
The reason why this is my personal opinion, but I think it's probably true. I sound like David. Is because they wanted to fool around with keeping people intrigued so that they can make it such a big franchise. And I think they did that. They did execute that thought, which is why people kept coming back to see it. And that's why I do feel like the demographic of people in the audience were of, our age, where they were like, I'm going to go see it because it's another Final Destination coming out, and I'm going to do it because this is the franchise that really did rock the nation because of how much it did well in the box office, because it was such a fantastic idea. I think that the reason why they didn't do anything too outlandish is because they didn't have to with this new one. I think it was to wrap it up in a pretty little bow.
Yeah, they kept things minimalistic because they knew that this IP would do well regardless of how much effort they put into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Daniel?
I'll get more into like why I really did not enjoy this movie in spoiler talk, because I'll have more reference to be able to do that. I have never just absolutely loved Final Destination by any means, so there's also that. And but I miss. You see it happen through. It's going to happen naturally that everything starts to look glossier, and I think it's a disservice to the way the movie should look. With Saw, it still looked. We just saw Saw X recently. We saw Socks, and it looked gritty and it looked dark.
Wait,
and it
gritty.
Hey, but where's the sound drop for?
Man, we need to have a visual podcast.
Did you say gritty?
Respect your elders, Zilbo.
Respect your elder Silvo.
That is the best I will do for the Gwitty.
So they're still finding a way to make it look. I remember that scene so well from Saw X, of the woman in the chair and having to get her leg off, and like the film grain was just so intense that it felt like you're watching there's something that adds a level of, I don't think I'm supposed to be watching this. It's almost like snuff film. It's like you're watching a real thing because it's shitty quality. And I think that's what sucks about when movies start to get really glossy, and the amount of motion blur in this movie adds to glossiness.
Yeah.
The amount of lens flares adds to glossiness. The amount of green screen, which is fucking overwhelming in this movie, adds to glossiness. And I'm like, this looks like Wicked. I'm watching Wicked. Why the fuck does a Final Destination movie look like Wicked? It looks the exact... If you told me the same person who shot Wicked shot this movie, I would not be surprised.
I didn't think of that. That's so accurate.
Yeah, what I was actually thinking and like almost comparing it to is there are certain sections of the movie where they're in this dark area, this like dark mountainous area with like, fog and everything.
Area, honestly.
And what it reminded me of was it like, because even then though, like Wolfman was shot better than this, right? Like Wolfman, like you could tell how much natural, like landscape they used for Wolfman. Whereas in this one, here's the thought that I had. If you guys haven't seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, that movie is like made kind of for kids, right? It's about like literally kids, not like teenagers, but like even younger.
It's like a step up from Goosebumps.
Yes, exactly.
The book fair
exactly.
did
And I
have
told Taylor coming out of this movie, I said this movie looked like Goosebumps. I was like this, and I mean like the Jack Black Goosebumps movie where Jack Black plays R.L. Stine. Like, it looks like that. It looks like a movie made for children, like a horror movie made for children. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this isn't made for children because the gore is really intense.
But it's so hard to put your finger on who the audience is supposed to be.
Oh, we know who it is. It's people our age who watch Final Destination growing up.
Yeah, because of the lore, but the way that it was filmed in such an easy way to process and watch. It's like, why am I a grown-ass woman watching this, like PG-13 gore when it used to be like,
Yeah, which at the same time, it's like, I liked the movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But I think that part of the reason why I liked that in that movie but didn't like it in this movie is because I knew that was made for kids. And that this was like, oh, you could actually play this movie on fucking Nickelodeon if you wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was that level of like nothing too scary, whatever. And the thing about that movie that this movie reminded me of is that everything in this movie feels like a set. Like the houses feel like a set. The tattoo studio feels like a set. Even the exterior of the mountainous foggy area, I was like, are they pumping the fog in?
Yeah.
And then like everything that they filmed on it, I was like, this looks like a soundstage. Like it doesn't look like a real place.
The grandma's house, yeah.
It was very frustrating for me because I'm like, this is not what I'm used to. Like the whole point of Final Destination is that everything looks like it's something that could kill you in real life because life is so dangerous and scary, and look at everything in the world that exists. Like someone getting killed in a fucking drive-through menu. It's like, if you saw that, but then you could see like Daniel said, like the green screen or blue screen behind, you'd be like, this is a guy on a soundstage. Yeah. And then it's a CGI of that kill. It's like, well, I don't relate to this as much. So I think that the visuals of this movie, while some of it looked good, it wasn't good for the context of this movie. Like that's the issue. Like if this was a Nickelodeon movie, if this was a Goosebumps, I'd be like, this looks fantastic for that.
The purpose behind the Final Destination movies is that this can really happen to you, and just overanalyzing each scene because of the way that it was shot and filmed really takes you out of the way that the movie is supposed to make you feel.
Right. So yeah, with all of that said, I mean, you guys know our opinions about it. I think that again, the reason why I like to say this is I think if you're familiar with the franchise and you think that this is pretty, you were like, oh, those were pretty good. I remember being interested in those. I think you could wait for this movie to come out on streaming. That's my opinion, right? I think you could wait for this movie to come out on streaming. If you want to watch it during the Halloween season, I could see that. Like, hey, let's have some friends over, or oh, it's just we're staying in tonight. Fuck it, let's put on Final Destination while we do a jigsaw puzzle or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could see that. I think Natalia's of the opinion that you should go see this movie in theaters immediately, and I think Daniel's of the opinion that you can skip this one altogether.
Yeah.
So with that said, we're gonna go ahead and get into spoiler talk and tell you what the new structure of the Final Destination of this one is.
Wow!
3, 2, 1.
Wait, guys, I'm actually fine.
Dad?
None of that hit me. Wait, my phone's going off. Hello?
Oh, that's so Raven.
It's the future I can see. That's so Raven.
Can we do a cold open Final Destination premonition, but for just a That's So Raven episode?
Can we just do a cold open Final Destination, the entire scene of people dying, and then at the end it's her zooming back out of her
out. It's Raven Simone.
It's Raven Simone.
Yep, that's me. And then credits.
End credits.
Anyways, spoiler alert. Final Destination Bloodlines is about a college student who is plagued by a recurring violent nightmare. So she returns home to find the one person who can break the cycle and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them.
Wait, did someone say violent night? Jingle bells, badminton smells, I just shit my pants.
It's time for
the rundown.
Whoa!
Final Destination Bloodlines. Here's how this one goes, guys.
Here we go.
At the beginning of the movie, we are open with the premonition scene.
Fuck, I'm lost. Can you run this down for me? Can you run this down a little slower for me?
Oh, let me run it down for you a little story. So, in 2001...
Oh, God.
There was 2 towers.
Oh, no.
2 planes.
In 2002, no towers.
And nobody's
Let's
gonna
just
guess
leave
what
it at
happened
that.
in
Let's just leave it
between.
at that. And where was Spider-Man getting...
We'll let you guys put it together. Give me a picture of Peter Parker.
Where was Spider-Man when I got the 2 towers?
Yeah, but now I'm thinking of like you see a YouTube thumbnail, you're scrolling through and it just says Spider-Man responsible for 9/11 and it's an hour and a half fucking YouTube video. Yeah.
Where was Peter Parker when...
Yeah. So, Final Destination. We open up on the famous premonition scene of Final Destination. Now, I will say I loved this premonition. This was a very good premonition that I think it incorporates real life fears, which I think is what Final Destination always does. I think like when you think of Final Destination 1, it's like, oh, a plane crash, like that's a big fear. A lot of people are scared of flying. You think of Final Destination 2, whenever you're driving behind a large logging truck, your brain goes to these horrible things.
roller coaster phobia.
Roller coaster phobias, like, yeah, these are all very traditional phobias, and I think this is the first time they've done one of these phobias, which I think is pretty good.
And what's that phobia?
Heights in general.
The fear of heights, everybody.
The fear of heights. Now, this is a period piece. Now, part of me was thinking that this whole movie was going to be a period piece. I didn't see any trailers.
Part of me was kind of hoping it would be.
Part of me was like, this would kind of be cool if they just like, fuck it. The thing that happened in 2001, this has happened in the 50s too. Yeah. That would be really cool. But they didn't do that, unfortunately. This premonition scene takes place, let's say the 1950s. And it is a woman and her boyfriend, and they're going to a very, very fancy restaurant called the Skyview, I believe it was called.
Yeah, Skyview, yeah. And it was 1920s.
It looks like the Space Needle. That's as much as context as you need. It looks like it's the Space Needle, but it's a very fancy restaurant. So it's also similar to like, Reunion Tower in Dallas, where it's a very tall building where there's a fancy, fancy restaurant at the top. They get to the top, they find out that they're not on the list, whatever. Here's what happens. There's a dance floor at this restaurant that is made of glass. This fancy restaurant that is a million miles in the sky has a glass dance floor. So if you watch your Final Destination, you go, oh, I know where this is going. The glass dance floor shatters while there's a bunch of people on top of it, and a bunch of people start falling. While they fall, they also tear part of the building off. And then there is a kid who throws a penny off of the top of the building that gets sucked into the air vents that ends up rupturing a gas line. And then as one of the tableside flambeing chefs does a tableside flambeing, it ends up exploding the gas lines and the building starts to fall apart in every direction. So the deaths that you see are people falling to their death, people dying in an explosion, people dying in a fire, and people dying as the building collapses and falls on top of them until there's only two people left, the main character in this scene and a little boy. And she's trying to save him until they eventually fall as well. She's hanging on by the ring on her finger after her husband proposed to her and she told him that she's pregnant, which anytime anyone tells you about future plans in a movie, things are not about to go well for them. They're like, we should do next week. Oh, you're dead. You're fucking dead.
There's no next week.
You just signed your own death certificate, you idiot.
Well, welcome to horror movies. So she ends up falling to her death and then, oh wait, it's not her. It's actually a random Asian lady waking up in a fucking different room entirely. And you're like, who the fuck is this? Well,
I'm glad you should ask. This is the oldest looking college student I've ever seen in my entire life.
This is a 45-year-old brand new college student. Now, this college student is having trouble sleeping. Never heard that before. And because she's having trouble sleeping, she's on academic probation for failing all of her classes. I'm like, you could at least put some bags under her eyes, make her eyes a little red. She's literally saying, I have had so much trouble sleeping. I am failing every class, despite being the valedictorian of my high school graduating class and top 10%. Despite all that, despite having a full academic scholarship, I'm having so much trouble sleeping, I have failed every class.
They had to cut her Adderall plug being out of Adderall for time.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, how much cocaine are you doing? Like, how is this possible that you look completely fine? Sorry. It was just a gripe I had about the movie. I was like, she doesn't look tired.
She looks healthier than me.
At all, at any point.
At all.
Yeah.
But she's apparently not able to sleep whatsoever.
Did you see a yawn?
No. She doesn't yawn a single time.
I did see one. It was me during the fucking movie. Yeah,
well, you're absolutely right. There's no yawn. There's no worry. Anyways.
Check, please.
So, she...
Oh, bro. This guy stinks.
The reason for this premonition is that she is seeing a premonition that her grandmother had. So she goes back home to find out what happened to her grandma. Now, everyone in the family is like, your grandma's fucking insane. She's a bad person. She was a terrible mother. She treated us like shit. We got taken away from her because of all this stuff, right? She's talking to her uncle primarily because her mother has also abandoned her and is not in her life anymore. So she's like, I have to find my grandmother. She goes to her grandmother's house, and her grandmother has been locked up in a fortified cabin in the middle of nowhere for 20 plus years. Her grandmother tells her, yes, I had a premonition when I was younger, and I knew death was coming. So we find out she is the person who was the main character of all the other Final Destination movies, right? Like, whoever that person is, that was her experience. And so she explains to her, I have been keeping death away from me for however long. But the issue is that everyone else that I saved, not only have they died, but everyone who has survived, everyone who lived because of them being saved, has also died a horrific death. So what she explains to her is that not only did I save all these people, they went on to have families and children that should have never existed because I saved them. So now death is like fucking 6 years behind on deaths, and he's like, oh shit, now I'm like fucking 20 plus years behind on killing all these people. These people should not have existed. My whole plan is all fucked up, so now I gotta go kill all these people in weird and horrific ways. And now it's finally getting to them because despite staving off death, she now has cancer. And of course the granddaughter's like, I don't believe any of this shit, you sound fucking crazy. And I should never come here. And she's like, all right, well, seeing is believing. And she gets brutally murdered in front of her granddaughter to prove to her that death is coming for them.
You had to get her to take the book. I'm sorry to interrupt again, but that was the whole reason.
She gives her the guide, the manual to Final Destination.
I think that the book is...
It's really a Final Destination Bible is what it is.
The grandmother's been keeping track of all of the things that she has researched and learned about death, and she gives all of this research to the granddaughter just before she dies. So that's how the granddaughter's like, okay, I am now the master of death, and I am the one who's going to save their family and show everyone where all the death is, yada yada. So as the movie progresses, people start to die one by one. She explains they're going to die in the order in which everyone was born. The first character that dies is the, uncle. And then we think that the next person who's going to die is going to be his firstborn son. And I will say this off the top. I called every single plot point of this movie about 10 minutes before it happened.
And I was like, I think you're right.
Yep.
Which I never say to David.
But
I was right about everything. And the first thing I said was, this guy's an illegitimate child. And I think that he's not going to be the first to die. It's going to be his sister, who is the second born child, because he is not related biologically to the family that wasn't supposed to live.
A la Bloodline.
And that's exactly what happens.
He had brunette hair. The rest of the kids had blonde. I was like, okay, David thinks he's hot shit because he put 2 and 2 together.
Pretty obvious one, yeah.
I didn't put it together myself. And that's the tea.
But I was like, yep, this kid, he's not going to die first. And then they're going to think, oh, she's wrong because she's a fucking idiot. I didn't die, so obviously. And then the sister's going to die, and it's going to be like, oh, okay, yeah. And that's exactly what happens. And then they're trying to save, they keep going down the line. Now, of course, everyone keeps dying, including the older brother who's not related, because in order to figure out how to save everyone, they got to go back to the beginning. And, it says that this guy found somebody, whatever. And then they go find
our R.I.P. angel in the sky watching over all of us, Tony Todd.
They find Tony Todd.
JB, Bloodworth.
He is the recurring character throughout the Final Destination series that has known about the premonitions and other people who have experienced this. And he is the one who helps people in the other movies try to stop everything. And he actually is the one who knows about the woman who flatlined and then came back. And then that actually, because death did get her, he's like, hey, that's on me. I fucking did my job. He's like, whoever his boss is, I did my fucking job. So I'm done. I'm moving on.
So I'm over. I used to come out of fucking mirrors with a hook. Okay, I'm done with this shit.
And now you're like making me fucking go through wind chime and shit. Fuck you, bro.
Fuck you. I used to be something.
I used to be something around these flips.
I had a fur coat cost at least $150,000 on eBay resale, man.
Candyman, never heard of it.
Got it. Anyways, R.I.P. Tony Todd. They find him and he says, you fuck with death, it gets messy. So they try to prevent death from happening again, and because of that, death kills the youngest brother of that part of the family as well as the
illegitimate son.
Now, it's time for the main family, the one that everyone actually cares about. It's the main character and her mom and her little brother.
The 45-year-old mom and the 45-year-old college student.
Yes. The 45-year-old mom, the 35-year-old daughter, and their 12-year-old little brother. No, now, of course, we know something bad is going to happen because he says, I asked a girl out to prom and I can't wait for prom.
Yep. I have future plans for prom.
Death is like, you guys think you're going to get me? Well, watch this shit. I'm going to go 3 for 3, motherfucker. And he tries to kill all 3 of them at the same time. Only kills the mom, and then the brother saves his sister from drowning in an RV in a pool as they were trying to go back to their grandmother's cabin, since they were like, well, she survived for 20 years. Let's go survive there for the next however long. And it doesn't, as soon as they get there, Death is like, nope, I'm going to kill all you guys all at once, one fell swoop. He doesn't end up getting them. She ends up drowning, but then her brother brings her back. And then in the final scene, he's getting ready for prom. And the sister is like, yeah, I mean, he saved me. I mean, I was dead and he brought me back. And they're talking to his prom date's father, who's a doctor. And he's like, well, you know. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you know, technically if he resuscitated you, it means your heart didn't actually stop, so you actually weren't fucking dead, you fucking dumbass, you dumb piece of shit. Obviously,
mansplained.
You think this shit's fucking easy, but obviously you don't know shit about fuck because whatever. No, guy, you watch The Pit. Oh, you think you fucking know everything?
Guy watches one episode of The Pit.
Thinks that you know anything about.
Immediately says, "Should we intubate?" To anything. To anything.
Get 5 seasons of Grey's
Should we intubate? Should we intubate?
We should intubate. I know what that word means now. So they were like, wait, we didn't stop death? And then a train crashes through the entire town and almost kills them, but then it doesn't kill them. And instead, giant wooden logs come out of the top of the train and kill them, a la Final Destination 2. That's the movie. So that's the new thing. It's not just, it's bloodlines. It's the bloodlines of all of these people who were saved in the 1950s from this premonition have all died. And we're the last ones to not die because the woman who had the premonition, we are her family.
Wait.
Now, I do think that this was an interesting and cool concept of how to do the Final Destination. Would it have been cooler if they just did a regular Final Destination in the 1950s to show that this has happened before? Yes. That would have been cool. A little period piece Final Destination.
I
Final
like the
Destination,
outfits.
yeah. Should they call it something else instead of the Final Destination? Like the first destination?
The journey.
Yes.
The journey.
I mean, they're all called Final Destination because when flights have layovers, they call it the Final Destination. Mm. And then all the other movies are called that after that, even though they're not
plane related,
whatever. At least the second one was like a road trip, so you know it was a little bit better. But a fucking roller coaster, come on. Ratchet batch.
Can't wait to fucking ride.
Hit the guy.
Final Destination.
Papa needs his provisions.
Buckle up.
So that's the blood. We got a note from our producer. We're stupid.
We're stupid.
That's Bloodlines. That's the rundown. Now you know what's going on. It's a new thing, but it's like kind of like going back to the beginning. So
That's so accurate.
that's the plot line. Should we kind of talk about the kills? How do you want to?
Yeah, I
There's
will
much to discuss. You know.
Let's go through the kills,
Okay.
and then we'll discuss each kill.
The kills.
Okay.
Gladly.
So, the first thing is in the premonition, the kills were pretty good. I like them. They, of course, again, they were CGI, but this one I was like, well, these literally have to be CGI because this building is CGI. I do think this is part of what you were talking about with glossiness and screen that this looked like a Marvel movie.
Yes.
Like if you guys have ever seen like the first Avengers, like all of Avengers Tower is CGI because that building doesn't exist in New York. So it's like it looks like that.
Yep.
But it kind of pulled the wool over our eyes because of the mass hysteria. It was hard to focus on each individual kill. So I feel like initially we were like, okay.
I was thinking, though, throughout this whole premonition, I was like, is this the most people to ever die in a premonition?
I think it might be.
I think the commercial airline in Flight 180 had more people.
Yeah, but that one was only his friends. They cared about his friends. Everyone else, they were like, we don't give a shit.
The fourth one was at a NASCAR event, so that would have had a lot of people as well.
Oh, that's right.
But it didn't have as many deaths.
That's fair.
That's fair.
But yeah, this one you would assume so, right? Just because
It's up
there's
there.
so many people like the building. It's up there. Tall, sky view.
Sky view.
I know. Tall, folks. I'm like waiting for laughter as if that deserves any laughter. This one's kind of weird. So the concept of degloving your finger and falling to your death was cool. It didn't look very good, so
it's no Gerald's Game.
And
I'll tell you that.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And that's going to be my complaint with every death. By the way, is the concept is fine. It looked like shit. So I didn't really care too much because it didn't look real or believable. And yes, then she falls into a CGI screen. So it's the whole opening. There's no believability to it. There's something that I find very. When you think about the first one, airplanes. Okay, cool. I have to fly all the time because I go back home to Texas. I go to visit Gabby in Portland. I go, okay, cool. I use planes a lot. Second one, I drive every fucking day.
Right.
The third one, I am a fan of roller coasters. I do ride them. That's always a fear. That's a very common fear.
We ride a roller coaster at the amusement park near us that looks a lot like the roller coaster in that movie. It's just not cars. It's a hanging instead, but the shape of it and the color and everything looks so much like it's crazy. Which Natalia knows about roller coasters because she actually used to work at an amusement park as a teenager.
Turkey leg stand, everybody represent.
I swear to God, it's becoming a thing now where every single time we go, and I pass the turkey leg stand, I go, Natalia used to work there.
That's amazing. I finally left my mark. I left my mark. Hell yeah, brother.
I've never gotten a turkey leg though. Are they any good?
Listen, I don't make commission, so I don't fucking know.
The fourth one, you have a NASCAR race, which is not super I do that all the time, but it's a public event that you don't expect to go wrong.
I think a sporting event in general is one, because when I go to a basketball game, I'm scared of the heights and the thing collapsing.
Yeah.
Those fears happen in my head. Yeah, so I think any type of public event or an arena type of event, you could see something bad happening. Also, I've always wanted to go to a monster truck rally, but that's also a fear of mine. I'm like, what if something horrible happens?
I've been Megalodon.
I know, and I've seen your videos from it, and I'm like, I would love that.
Freaking awesome.
Why have I not gone to one? They used to have them in Dallas all the time. I was like, how come I haven't been to one? I think I would enjoy it a lot.
Because Final Destination made you really scared.
Oh, maybe Final Destination made me a little pushy, maybe a little bitch pushy.
Now, the fifth one, what's the fifth one? What's the termination for the fifth one?
The fifth one is the bridge. So the bridge collapse.
A bridge collapse.
And there's actually a very similar kill to when she gets degloved and falls on that spike. With Candace in the bridge collapse, she falls on rebar. And she gets the... That's one of the scenes that you were talking about. That's actual practical special effects is that. But then they really go heavy on the CGI later on in that movie. But
yes, so bridge collapse. We all drive
there,
again.
done that.
We all, and yes, it is scary to be up there and you feel wind and you're like, intrusive thoughts. And so, it's like, what if I just off the bridge?
The Golden Gate Bridge?
The reason that this one...
We get it, California. Shut the fuck up about it. Oh my God.
West Coast?
Yeah, do you have a building? You have a tall building that's also a restaurant? Because we actually do.
It's so dry here.
Dumbass, dude.
So the reason that this one didn't really hit as hard for me is because they're like, hey, we're going to go into this just comically tall building where the floor is made of glass to go eat escargot. And I'm like, I would never do that.
Right.
I would never do that. I would never find myself in that situation. I would never do it. I'm out. Now, before they even go up.
When they lean into the comedy of it, I think it is really good. And one of the things that they did was, as they're getting into the elevator, they're like, we got room for you. And she's like, we'll take the next one. And he's like, no, just come on in. And her husband's like, cool, thanks. It's like, dumb men. Oh my God. But then the elevator guy's like, not only is this building already done, but it's actually done 5 months ahead of schedule. And you're like, don't tell people that.
She goes, is that a good thing?
They are so incredibly in your face about did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
With the script in this.
It is a little, you're right. Because this whole sequence, they then get into the restaurant. They do a zoom close up of someone cracking the top of a creme brulee, I appreciate the idea of doing this. These... I guess foreshadowing, but it's so on the nose, it's hard to call it that. But it's kind of a funny concept, whatever. They do it with the fire, what do you call it, flambe?
Yeah.
I don't watch MasterChef, I don't know.
Flambe.
But flambe, and it's like, zoom in on that. Oof, and it's like, got it. So there's going to be fire, there's going to be something breaking, got it.
The only thing I don't like about this, though, is that unlike the other Final Destinations, the thing you think is going to happen is what happens. And that's going to be a part of the theme that goes on throughout the whole thing. When you think of the ladder kill, which is one of the most famous kills in all of Final Destination, I think it's probably the best one. If you guys haven't seen that, what happens in that scene is it's like a 5-minute long scene of a guy doing the most dangerous shit you've ever seen. It goes into his apartment. He's got a hot pan next to a stack of newspapers, and then he's putting metal into a microwave, and then he's putting forks down a garbage disposal, and then sticks his whole hand down the garbage disposal to get something out of it. And then just all of this crazy shit he keeps doing over and over and over again. Eventually, his apartment does set on fire, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And he runs down his fire escape, and as he runs down, he fucking falls off the ladder, and he's like, oh my god, that almost killed me. And then the ladder falls down onto him and stabs through his eyes and kills him. Yeah. So it's like the last thing you expected in the scene, and it's this very comedic scene because you have all these dangerous things that could happen, and then they don't.
Yeah.
And then until it gets to this point, and then it's like a very comedic. So it's both like the cringiest, like, oh my god, like ladder through the fucking eyes, like, oh my god. But at the same time, it's also like the last thing you expected. Whereas in this one, it's like, yep, people die from the flambe, people die from the glass floor, people die from the, like, everything that you saw.
It's so A to B.
Kills.
The little falter with the ladder is so beautiful because it's like, oh, got your ass. But with all the kills in this movie, it's so A to B. Like, you are going to die from what is coming instead of being like, oh, just kidding. That could have happened, though.
It's like, I mean, I remember Daniel telling me about one of his favorite kills being the PVC pipe through the car scene because of how good of a fake out that was. Where there's a scene in one of the Final Destinations where someone has PVC pipe, like, you know, break, and then a shard of it comes shooting through the back of her fucking headrest in her car. And you think, oh my God, that should have killed her. Okay, well, it didn't. It's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't part of her death yet. Maybe this was out of order and like whatever. And as the firemen are trying to get her out of the car, they stick the jaws of life in her door, and her fucking airbag goes off, pushes her head through the fucking PVC. So she still dies from that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that one's where it's like, oh, she still dies from that, but not in the way you thought she was going to die from it. So
yeah,
they do more creative. This one, I think you're right, is more like most of the kills are A to B kills. Like, this is, I see this thing, this is how they die.
Yeah.
Yeah, very telegraphed. The more we talk about it, this episode, movie number 2 does. They really love because the extra details. You know, it's like the ladder kill. Not only is that what happens, like you mentioned, but he lands on glass and he's staring up at the ladder like, oh shit,
that was a close one.
That looks scary, and because it falls towards him, but then it stops. And he's like, oh, God, I thought that ladder was going to... And then it falls.
Yeah, so in a way, it prepares you.
You know, yeah.
You know.
It does a pump fake and then still shoots anyway. Like,
it just feels more satisfying that way.
Yeah.
Because they do the same with the PVC pipe. Like, oh, she escaped it. That was close. And then it's like, actually, watch this shit.
Yes. Now, here's how they do it.
You got
Here's
me.
The only scene that they do it well is in the next death. And this is a scene where we're at a barbecue. I do want to mention this real quick. After the grandmother dies... the main character, her mom, who abandoned them 10 years ago, shows up, and the teenager's like, oh my fucking God, I can't believe she's here. And I was like, how? I turned to both Natalia and Daniel and said, how dare she show up to her own mother's funeral? What a piece of shit. Fuck her. Motherfucker. Like, you just met this woman. You just met her for the first time in your life. And you're like, how dare my mother show up to her mom's funeral?
She was 25 years old when she walked out 10 years ago.
Facts.
So stupid.
It was so. I was like, "Wow, you're so mad at these." What the?
Yeah, and I forgot what was the brother's dumbass fucking line. I was so mad. Again, the acting is atrocious in this movie. And
it was when he goes. Are you talking about when he goes? Yeah, it's not that you stop trying. It's that you don't care.
And he walks off like it's some kind of mic drop. Hey, go fuck yourself, man. And
that was the same thing.
I knew the acting was going to be really bad from the beginning. Like the point where it got where I was like, oh fucking Christ, was in the opening premonition. I remember the exact line. That's why I have to bring it up. I was like, I'm going to remember that line now. It was the main character in the premonition, the grandmother, is going to throw up near a trash can. And the singer who was on stage just finishes her song. She turns around, goes behind the curtains, and sees a random white woman throwing up in a trash can. And her natural delivery of her line is everything all right? And I was like, great delivery. Is everything all right?
It was the 1950s.
Who talks like that? I was so mad. I was like, that's one of the worst line deliveries I've heard in the past millennium. I was like, that is fucking atrocious. Is everything all right? That is so stilted and horrible. What are we doing?
I'll tell you what pissed me off in that scene was that there's not a single person who's like, hey, listen here, see, one of the best things right here is that this actually building was built 5 years ahead of schedule.
Well, you're doing a 50s accent. She said it was the 1920s.
It was the 1920s. That's
20s?
why I was like, why is there one of that? Yeah, that's what the sticky note said when it first happened.
This happened in the 1920s and the grandmother is like 60? No shot.
Yeah.
They said this happened in the 1920s.
Yeah.
And the grandmother is like 70 years old in 2024?
I doubt that it was in 2020. I doubt that it was in 2024 when it was like meant to be filmed. It said like 2016 was the last time that somebody died.
That would still make her almost 100 years old.
Really?
If she was in her 20s
I don't
in
know.
1920,
I literally
that would
don't
mean
have
today she would be 100
any
years old.
back in this.
120 years old.
So it's probably 1950s.
I think that the next scene, the scene of the uncle dying, which is after the funeral, which is why we brought up all that other shit, is the best aspect of them doing the multiple fake out thing. Mm-hmm. Because the way that they do this scene is at the beginning, someone breaks a thing of glass and then it gets into the ice, and then they shovel the ice into a bunch of different cups and then gives drinks to everybody. And they keep going around as each people starts to drink, and then they put it down real quickly.
Mistake, man. Sorry. Mistake.
But
Has anyone in here worked in the bar industry? Anytime glass breaks ever, you completely burn the well. That's like protocol.
Well, this guy
And these fucking idiots
has a peanut
clearly
allergy,
are
so
a
he
bunch of
can't
mommy,
work
daddy,
in a restaurant.
trust fund kids who've never had a job. Are like, oh, a glass just broke. Whatever. Anyways,
These guys do kind of come off as trust fund kids.
They're
Now,
Nepo
this
babies, every single
'cause-
last one of them.
Did they say what city they're in?
Minneapolis. No, I have no idea. I'm so confident.
What do you call?
I was just about to say, well, maybe they could afford this house. It's Minneapolis.
What do you call a small Coca-Cola? Minnesota.
But yeah, you're saying that this is very like a lot of good fake outs and stuff, starting with the glass breaking.
Yeah, so they have the glass breaking, and then everyone starts to drink a little bit, and they put their cup back down, and it's like, oh, who actually has the cup with the glass in
glass,
it?
yeah.
And then they're also jumping on a trampoline, and as they're jumping on a trampoline, there's a hoe underneath it.
What's her name? You better stop. You better stop. That's if you said it.
You're crazy.
They have a hoe underneath there, and they also have the trampoline starting to rip apart. So they have all these aspects, right? And then the sister, sorry, not the sister, the mother. She's also the guy's sister. It's a whole fucking family. You guys ever heard of one?
They're Bloodlines.
Bloodlines. Ever heard of it?
Ever heard of it?
The mom of the main character is like, wait, stop jumping on the trampoline. And then she goes and she picks the hoe up. And Natalia's like, get your hands off me.
Get your hands off. I don't want to go yet.
I'm waiting for him to step on me a little bit. Come on, buddy.
Get some other people on here. Get the fat one up here.
My toes. Okay.
All right.
So
we're not releasing the EP yet.
she picks it up and you're like, oh, she's safe. And then somebody throws their drink out and now the glass is on the grass, and then the dad of the cousins, so the uncle, steps on the glass. This is in the trailer, so if you've seen it, you've seen this. He steps on the glass, falls down, the hoe actually falls, starts the lawnmower, and then his head gets fucking stomped on, and then blood everywhere. The reason why I like this is because they do the whole fake out thing like over and over again. I was like, that's very classic Final Destination. The reason I don't like this is the lawnmower on the person's head I have seen now like 50 times in horror. I was like, nah, Final Destination is for the here's a kill you never thought of.
Yes.
And this was, I have seen this in horror so many times.
And yeah, go ahead.
Logistically, that's not really a common thing that happens in the United States of America.
What?
Lawnmower deaths, specifically with the head, also with the handheld lawnmower, it's kind of hard to get that angle.
Not to mention lawnmowers usually don't go on their own like that. You have to push them forward. Famously.
You gotta start the fuck out of that lawnmower.
This was like a button
crank
push lawnmower. Come on.
Fucking Tesla lawnmower.
Fancy
folks.
fancy paints. Not my lawnmower.
You still have to push it.
In my fucking day, you had to work for it.
I still have lats from my fucking lawnmower from 10 years ago.
Yeah, bro.
Our lawnmowers sucked. We had like 50 fucking lawnmowers growing up, and they broke every single time.
That is true. The reason I don't like this one as well is you don't see shit.
That's true. It's very quick cutaway.
Yeah, it's just like you see a lawnmower over a guy's head and him going, ah, and blood.
Okay, while we're on this,
Show me some fucked up shit, dude. That's
show
why
me
I'm
some
fucking
brain
here.
matter. Show me some brain matter.
God damn, bro.
I really didn't like also the reaction that the dad got from having a huge thing of glass stuck through his foot, and he hops away like, I'm okay. Did you guys not remember that?
Not really.
He literally is like, it's okay, guys. I'm okay. He's hopping away toward the lawnmower. He's
Yeah,
like,
I guess
"It's
you're
okay,
right.
I'm
I'd be
fine."
like, ah!
It was literally sticking through it. That was a fine. Like, that was one of the few parts of the movie as far as the violence and gore that I was like okay with. I was like, oh, that looked actually pretty. It's like Halloween prop type practical and fine. It worked. It was visceral. I was like, ouch, that would hurt.
Yeah.
Whereas that felt more believable than the lawnmower chop. I don't know. I just fucking cop out. Show it.
Show it.
There's only one. We'll get to it. All right, go ahead.
So the next kill that we see is, well, the next thing that we see of violence in general is a fake out where we think that the oldest brother is going to die. He gets a chain stuck into his nose piercing that's hanging from a ceiling in the tattoo shop that he works at, which, by the way, he gives himself a tattoo while he's grieving for his father, and he does this for a long time, and then it finally reveals the tattoo, and it was just him writing the word dad in Old English. I was like, this is the worst fucking tattoo ever.
Not a creative guy.
He forgot his name.
Yeah, his name was fucking Howard, dude.
Honestly, yeah.
And you know what?
Howard.
You know what? He was a great father and a good brother, and honestly, a good uncle.
He was. He was a cool guy.
I want him to be my dad.
But he didn't believe his mom, and his mom was right. So he's actually kind of a piece of shit.
So fuck that guy.
How could you?
Howard, could you?
He had a little sister to think about, bro.
He didn't believe his mom, fucking piece of shit.
He hated his sister. He was like, that crazy bitch, that's why she's so fucked up. It's because my fucking mom showed up to the
Yeah,
funeral
but
like
then when she
nothing
shows
else.
up, he's like, you know what? You should stay with me. I don't want you out there like that.
Here's a spare key.
He's a
We
spare
can
key.
fix this.
And I was like, this fucking guy's a good guy, and he's for sure gonna die
He's
first.
definitely gonna die now.
he said, tomorrow I'll go to the grocery store. I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, hey, here's a future plan. You come move in with us. No.
You can take my bed.
But instead of the eldest dying in the tattoo parlor after he accidentally sets it on fire, it is the sister who dies, and she dies by getting thrown into a garbage truck and gets compressed to death. This, I think, was the least realistic looking death in the movie. This one, it goes from like her, and then in the same shot, she turns into CGI, and you can see the frame.
It was
that she turns into
terrible. It
CGI.
was so terrible.
And then her head starts to blow up. And it's funny because the CGI doesn't even look like her at all. I'm like I don't know.
Before she even starts to die, you're like, okay, so this bitch is gonna get her head smashed because it's fully CGI.
Yeah.
You're like, she's gonna not
it's
survive.
like, yeah,
this.
you're like, they're trying to make it seem like she's about to be pulled out of it, like it's safe, and then it just cuts to, and then she's CGI. You're like, okay, she's dead. Like,
It's
for
like
the
when you
next
have this-
4 seconds, the thing slowly crushes her head, and then even when it cuts away, and she's holding her arm, I'm like, the arm looks fake, and the blood coming out of it looks fake. I was like, even if they did some practical and then enhanced it with CGI or something like that, I'd be like, really? Like, y'all couldn't have done someone holding an arm 100% practical? I was like, that's an easy thing to do. But I was like, but when every other kill looks like this, you have to make them all look the same.
Yeah.
So again, I know we're going to make this a complaint of every single kill, but I think this was the worst one.
I have a couple ones that I liked.
Ironically, this is the one that I thought was the most interesting, like, to think of dying this way kind of kill. I was like, oh, what goes on in the back of those fucking things? The trash compactor shit. I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be terrifying. Not even.
I would like to know what safety features actually exist in those trucks to prevent people from getting crushed in them, because there's got to be something, right?
Who knows?
Because it's like when you have like saw blades and stuff like that, like that's like unrealistic because saw blades actually have moisture detection, and if they detect moisture, they just immediately drop. You can't even cut your finger off with most like modern saws. But it's like you can't do that for a trash compactor. Like
all sorts of stuff.
You can't
goes
do
in
like
there.
pressure against it would prevent it, or moisture would prevent it. It's like no, it has to crush everything.
That's why I was like, what happens is the like roof, it closes in on her head of the back of the truck, but like. But forget that. Being stuck in a pile of trash, completely sloshing around, is terrifying.
Yeah, it's like a quicksand of trash.
Yes.
Almost.
Like you are going to sink into it, you're going to suffocate, but you're also going to get bludgeoned to death by whatever is in these trash bags. Who knows what people are throwing away, and you die from that. So that is just terrifying in its own right.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor's told me that like she's been in a foam pit before. I've never been in one. And I was like, it looks fun. And she's like, actually, you kind of feel like you're drowning. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, I don't know if you would like it because I get claustrophobic. I was like, man, that sucks. But I can see that. It's like similar with the trash,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like quicksand, but with larger objects. But
Scary.
same.
But I think you're also right that this isn't really a phobia that I think about often.
I don't typically peruse curbs in like garbage cans.
We also
often.
none of us live in a house, so we probably don't see garbage trucks.
Yeah, I definitely don't go for a run in my neighborhood. That's not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Not in my neighborhood.
56 hours of overtime as Oscar the Grouch, and this is the recognition I get.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So that is that death. The next death comes from the youngest of the kids. Actually, the youngest and the oldest both die at the same time. Their idea is that after talking to
Tony Todd.
they have this idea that they're going to stop the youngest brother's heart and then they're going to resuscitate him. And the main character's like, I got an idea. We're going to make you eat a peanut because you're allergic to peanuts. Now, of course, this is a terrible idea because even if he dies and fully flatlines from this, even if you use the EpiPen after that, it doesn't actually reverse the allergic reaction. It just prevents it from progressing further and allows you to go get true medical treatment. So if you die from this all the way, you're probably not going to come back from it. Just saying. I've seen The Pit, so I know a thing or two.
Should we intubate?
we should intubate. So he has him eat this peanut, but in the process of doing this, they are in a room that I don't know if there should ever be a room that is this easily accessible. But they are able to just walk into an unlocked room with a MRI machine with no one there and no one looking at it. And they end up turning this on and no alarms go off. And this giant, massive machine that's loud as fuck does not alert anyone else in the area that this machine is on.
That's not how that works.
You didn't have to scream that loud.
Oh, sorry.
How does what not work?
Those rooms, you have to badge into them. I worked at a shitty ass hospital. You have to badge into them.
Producer note.
My wife, who has worked in several medical facilities, including a hospital, has said that you have to badge into MRI rooms, that you can't just walk into them. So I thought this whole scene was one of the least realistic scenes of the entire movie. I was like, these rooms are not easily accessible. These machines are way, way louder than they're making them out to be. I've gotten multiple MRIs, and I have to put headphones on every single time because they're fucking loud as shit. Everyone would know that they were on. Also, the computer to control the machine is never in the same room as the actual MRI machine. They're always like, lay down here, and then we're going to go outside and into another room entirely because they're giant magnetic machines. Obviously, you couldn't keep a computer in the same room. I'm just like, all this was fucking stupid.
Dumb.
This was dumb as fuck. I was like, there's metal in this room. There's a fucking clipboard with a metal thing on it hanging on the wall in this room, as if you would ever put that in a room that has an MRI machine. Everything about this is fucking stupid to me. And then they turn it on and both of them get sucked into it. When the older brother gets sucked into it, because he's like a alt guy, he's got piercings everywhere. All of his piercings start coming out, and they do this joke, which I thought was funny, was that his nipples start coming out, but then also his dick starts to come out. It's like, okay, this guy literally has a piercing everywhere.
And I mean everywhere.
And I do mean everywhere.
And they didn't show it. Fucking cowards.
Where's the cack?
Show dong.
Where was the cack?
But yeah, the MRI death, the only thing that's funny about this one, so obviously the older brother gets sucked into the machine through his piercings. There is a wheelchair in the room that also then smashes him in further into the MRI machine as he's getting like split in half. And then the door comes flying open, and then a spring from the vending machine across the hall comes flying through and kills the younger brother, and his head explodes. Here's the funny part about this. Natalia had to go to the bathroom during the movie. This was earlier, when we were watching. And when she came back, I was trying to do a bit, and I said, oh, the little brother died already. And she was like, wait, what? I missed it? I said, yeah, so they had him eat a peanut, and he started having an allergic reaction, but then his head exploded. As a joke. And then that's actually what happened.
And then literally
he eats a peanut, and then his head explodes.
I hate when David's right.
I was like,
0 out of 10.
Premonition? I might be him. We should leave this theater. There's actually a movie theater explosion scene in Final Destination 5. 4.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Anyways,
Actually, it's 3 and 4.
this was my least favorite death of the movie because of how unbelievably unrealistic it was. I was like, guys, there are a billion things on this planet that you could die from. And I believe that an MRI machine is one of them if you were getting an MRI properly, but they didn't do it that way. They did. We just walked into this room, and then there was a computer in this room that turns this machine on, and I was just like, everything about this scene is dumb as fuck. You could have done so many other things in the context of a hospital in which somebody dies in a weird, fucked up way that they weren't supposed to in a hospital, and you chose the one thing that was the least realistic way to die in a hospital.
The manual override was just his iPhone hitting the side of the MRI machine.
Yeah, what was that about?
Dude,
There's nothing manual about that.
We're at max capacity for magnetization. You got to manually override to keep going higher. And then his phone hits a touch screen.
Yeah.
And then it
It's
sets
like,
it
okay,
off.
sure.
I'm like, what the fuck is this, man?
Yeah,
It's
a lot
just
of,
so
like-
fucking stupid. I was like, none of this. I'm like, someone died in a car crash? Yes. Someone dying because someone didn't properly secure the back of their fucking car when they were in a drive-thru and it comes sliding down and it kills you. That's possible. This was like, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying the way it happened was not possible.
Yeah, because a lot of Final Destination is a twisted version of a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah.
And in order to have a Rube Goldberg machine in a natural situation, this stuff would have to be in there. But like you said, you don't have computers in
the same
room. You have a separate room with a little window. None of it made sense. You don't have a manual override. There's probably a fucking feature that just shuts the goddamn thing down.
Yes.
If it reaches a certain point. They, like Taylor said, you have to badge in to get into a room like this. It's like, so you fucking cheated. You cheated.
Yeah.
You're a cheater.
You just
You're a cheater.
Instead of creating a situation that actually existed and saying, what if everything went wrong? You created a fake situation that couldn't happen.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not saying you can't die from an MRI machine. I'm saying you couldn't die like this.
Yeah.
It's also funny because, like Taylor said, we have to badge in to the room because it's a big, fat magnet. But it kind of implies, since there's not a separate room with a computer, that the doctors are just standing at the MRI machine like, yep, okay, that's a magnet. That's a person inside a magnet.
Yep.
What the fuck?
It was so fucking stupid. Anyways, also all CGI fucking bullshit.
CGI bullshit.
The next death. So now that entire Bloodlines is dead, now it's time for mommy and the two kiddos to die. So they're like, let's get into this car and let's go drive to the cabin where grandma was and let's stay there and we'll be safe. And as soon as they get there, Death starts his shit. He's on his fucking bullshit, man.
Wind
and
chimes.
there's a bunch of stuff. Wind chimes. He ends up burning a flower pot that turns a gas line on. I'm like, classic Death move is the gas line move. Also, just want to say this. Throughout the entire movie, they refer to Death as a he.
Wow.
I'm like, first of all,
Classic.
assuming Death's gender. Also, assuming a woman couldn't do that job. Fuck you.
Salam.
And also, you don't know how Death identifies. Death might be a they, them.
The final standoff between the characters and Death at Grandma's house starts throwing a bunch of shit in a tornado of like, who's gonna die? I don't know. Everybody's about to die. It's going crazy, but it's supposed to be the mom, right?
It has to be the mom
Has to
first.
be the mom. So they kind of have shit going crazy by tipping the RV over, and now the daughter is drowning. That is
And the house explodes,
That
too.
was the most, like, out of everything in the movie, that was the most terrifying situation to me. I was like, oh my God, being stuck in your seat. And I remember thinking, that's why I don't fucking wear them. I was like, this movie's anti-seatbelt. They don't want anyone to wear seatbelts anymore because now everyone's going to watch this and go, well, fuck that. But it was a terrifying situation to be completely stuck in your seatbelt, upside down, drowning underwater.
I think that was
It was visceral to me. I was like, oh my, I was holding my breath like in the theater.
Yeah, I think that's the only death in the entire movie where I was like, oh my gosh, I need the tool that the Shazam guy was touring on the whatever. But the seatbelt cutter tool, I was like putting myself in that situation and thinking about it now, looking back, that's the only situation where I was like, how can I prevent this from happening to me?
I actually do have a knife in my car that has a seatbelt cutter on it. Because that is one of my biggest fears. It's not even the drowning part. It's like also if your car was on fire, like you could, like the seatbelt could melt. Like there's so many things that could go wrong. And the knife that I have both has a seatbelt cutter and a window shatterer. So it's got, I can, if I needed to. But yeah, I feel that, man. And like her panic, this was like the only good performance that she had in the fucking movie because she's panicking so hard. Like her little brother, when he goes in after her, can't even cut her loose because she's freaking out. And I'm like, and part of me was like, you need to calm the fuck down. But I was like, how?
Right.
Like, it's just not possible. Like, I get it. I get that this would be a feeling of an impossible thing to do. So it really was. I think you're right. Like one of the most realistic and one of the most like tuning into actual fears moment.
Yes. Now, if you're wondering why is the brother helping her out alone, well, mom
does die.
Is gone.
The house explodes. She is burned horribly, but she survives, and she helps the little brother get out from underneath a piece of the house that fell on top of him. So she's like, "Go get your sister. I'm gonna stay alive as long as possible." And then she dies.
Oh,
Classic Final Destination.
don't think you are gonna do that, ma'am. Also, where you
Well, she
been?
did stay alive as long
You
as
sounded
possible.
like
Actually,
Christopher Walken. Mom,
Man,
my
you gonna
mom.
stay?
Mom, where are you?
You're
going.
You're going to die.
You're going to die.
Terrible.
If you don't get out of here,
Man.
Mom. Where are you going?
All right, here we go. Listen. So I told her, I said, you can't do that. Christopher running.
Oh my God, you had me.
Christopher running.
I was like, what's he doing? What's he doing?
Get him the fuck out of here. Get him the fuck out of here. He can't do that.
I'm leaving
He
the
can't
pod.
do that. He
Guys,
cannot
this is
do
my professional announcement. I'm
He knows
leaving.
that he can't do that. He knows that he can't do that.
Look, we already made it to 100 episodes. This is, call us a Dalmatian the way that this is episode 101. I'm out. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Call us Zoe the way that this is episode 101. I'm out, and that's it, and I'm leaving. Bye.
So the brother saves his sister because he said way earlier in the movie that he was in junior lifeguards. And so we were like, yep, he's going to save junior lifeguards. And then as soon as she fell in the water, I turned to Daniel and Natalia. I said, junior lifeguards, remember? See, he's going to save her. This movie is horribly predictable,
Yes.
unfortunately.
But
even like knowing that like Tony Todd was going to play the little boy who survives because he's like one of the only black characters in the movie. And it's like, okay, I bet that little boy is the old guy, the old black man that we know from this fucking series. Which, by the way, he looks way older than the grandmother.
I thought that
even
too.
though she's like 20 years older than him. The brother saves the sister, but then we get the final scene, as we mentioned in the rundown, where the train crashes. There's a certain point where they're running, where everything in the entire scene turns into CGI. It looks straight out of fucking Marvel. And,
Sure does.
The two logs are CGI little logs that come flying out and then crush them. And, it's funny because Final Destination 4 has a good ending scene where most of the people in the movie survive for a really long time. And then as they're sitting in a coffee shop at the very end, they're like, wait, we didn't stop the thing. And then a truck crashes through the thing. And then the ending credit scene just shows all of them being killed by the truck.
Yeah, it goes like to skeletal X-ray, and it shows all their bones
Yeah.
breaking.
Do you know why?
Why?
They didn't have the budget. That's literally why. They were like, yeah, we didn't have the budget to show them getting horrifically ran over. So we were like, let's just we did the whole opening sequence as the X-ray thing. Let's do it again. So just budgetary cuts.
Damn. Trash.
I liked it.
So
I'm glad they ran out of money.
they did that in this
Relatable.
movie, but instead of doing the bone thing, they just did CGI murder like they did for the rest of the movie, and it looked terrible. And I understand why Daniel walked out going, this movie fucking sucked. And I was like, well, they definitely left a bad taste in my mouth from that final kill. I was so mad about it. I was like, this could have been so good. Even if you just had the train come crashing through and it didn't even show the people dying and just had the train going through and then the train turned red and then it turned into the Bloodlines, I'd be like, okay. But what they actually did was terrible.
It's just like they got smushed, and it was really lazy. Like a lot of the things that we've mentioned earlier, it was just so easy to watch them get smushed by the lumbar. And I don't know, I just didn't feel the feeling that I felt with the prior Final Destination movies. And I was like, geez, they're all gonna die at the end. Even the transition with the skeletal figures, I was like, okay, fantastic, because all of it unraveled so suddenly. With this, it took a really long time for them to come to the conclusion, like, wait, I didn't floodlight. And then you would hear a train. I'm sorry, you would hear the train if it was that close derailing, that you'd get a head start on the run. I'm just going to say it right now.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, it is funny that there's something about when it transitions to the shot of them running away from the train from a side view. I was like, this looks like Temple Run. But it was so stupid, like ugly. But yeah, I think one of the big points I want to make of why I fucking hated this movie is because we just went through all of these kills and it took us a long time to do it. And the kills in this movie are the minority of the movie. Most of the movie is a bunch of bullshit. It's them arguing in the living room about, do we believe her fucking I'm like, fucking kill someone. The opening premonition sequence was goddamn 30 minutes long.
Getting from them, like, opening with them driving to when people actually start dying, I think it's probably the longest of any Final Destination.
It was insane how long it took for some people to fucking die. So yes, we are here to see what these creative, insane ways of people dying, and it's so few and far in between, and it takes forever to get to it that I was just like, dude.
Talk about the MRI scene, bro. The time from them walking away from Tony Todd to them actually dying from that MRI machine was horrifically long. They spend 20 minutes trying to get the fucking peanut butter cup out of the vending machine and faking you out that they're going to die from the vending machine. The machine turning on takes fucking forever as it starts to build up and build up and build up and build up. And then like stuff starts flying at it. It's like from the time the machine getting turned on to them actually getting sucked into it is like 15 minutes. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, and finally when they get to it, the guy's like, I'm not going to let you die. And I was like, shit, he's going to let him die.
Of course. But they're missing that awesome spontaneity of Final Destination 1 where someone just gets hit by a bus midline. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. I remember thinking that was such a fucking cool element of that first movie. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. It's
the shock
Instead,
factor.
It's Dave going, I bet this is going to happen. And then 20 minutes later, it happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-explaining as well, like the build-up, like this is why we got here. And there's a lot of self-explaining where it's like, yeah, we kind of got that. The prior Final Destinations, they left room for Easter eggs and for you to figure it out on your own. This was spoon-fed for us.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, I honestly think like what you said in the beginning was like the best way to describe it. This is a very A to B death movie. Like, okay, I think that's going to kill them, and I think it's going to be this way, and then that's what happens.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas in the other Final Destinations, it's A to B to C to D to D to E F. And
no room for contemplation. And you have
no idea when it's going to happen. You have no idea what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. They fake you out so many times. It's like you can never fully predict it. And even when you do predict it, like the tanning bed thing, you know, it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen in this one. At least it's a long, drawn out, like horrifying, screeching, yelling death. And whereas the ones where they fake you out, it's instant. So if they fake you out, it's an instant head exploding death. But when they don't fake you out, they really draw it out to where it's like, and I know that Final Destination 4 is arguably the worst one. So even that is like not a good example of one of the better ones. And yet that, you know, very telegraphed death still did a better job of it than a lot of the deaths in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, I wanted this movie, I was the opposite of you. I want this movie to be over ASAP because I was so bored by this movie. And it sucks because then when you finally get these few and far between kills, they just look like shit. They look like shit. And if you took this long to make this movie, why are we not a little more creative with the kills themselves and how they happen and what fears they tap into? Why are we not more creative with how we do them practically? Why it's just this feels like a cash grab of all cash grabs. I don't feel the passion of the previous movies.
That's so true.
Even story wise, okay. When I was trying to recap myself in the movies, I was like, oh, and in the second movie, they include this element that all these people in the second movie survived because of events from the first one. Interesting, they do this.
So death was behind.
Death was behind. Episode. I keep saying episode. Movie number 3 is like, hey, what if there was a bunch of pictures taken of the survivors, and every picture of the survivors that was taken has a hint as to how they're going to die? That's an interesting story concept. In the first one, there were stuff that I had no idea about in the first one, and that's a real like Easter egg, a real filmmaking technique. There are shots and stuff in the first one that give hints to stuff that I have never known until now, this much later, 25 years later.
Oh, like when you originally watched it, you didn't go, oh, that's what that was for.
There's a scene where the sign that kills Homeboy at the end in Paris, it breaks and it falls
and it flips to 180.
It flips to 180, which is the number of the flight that they were on. Yeah. There's a shot of Sean William Scott who gets decapitated, like half of his head or whatever, by a flying shard. He's watching the plane leave at the airport, and the reflection of the plane is going like this across his face, the same way he dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have never known. That is so fucking cool.
Maybe there was some creativity. Maybe in part 2 we'll see if there was some creativity.
I will eat the crowiest of crows if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any of that shit. Again, all I saw was creme brulee cracking. I was like, because the floor's going to break and stuff like that. So it's not subtle or anything like by any means. It felt so fucking stupid to me.
Yeah, it feels like a slap in the face because at least for the buildup of the prior movies, it makes you work for it. With this, it was spoon-fed, like I said, but it's just boring.
Yeah, something I want to mention too, like again, I have more context than I usually have for episodes like this because I had to recap 5 fucking movies. But so I've seen a lot of content. In the third movie, there's a scene where a big ass sign at a carnival falls and crushes a kid. And so they did it and they were like, they did some test screenings and everything. And they're like, this feels so disappointing. It falls on the character, but you don't see anything because it's a massive sign, so you don't see anything. So they reshoot the scene. They decided to reshoot it
and fold him like a table.
And they cover half of his body in green screen and leave his real side. And they reshoot it. As soon as the sign crashes, they then swing him over to the side to where half of his bifurcated body is like flipping off and like twitching. Yeah. I was like, that's attention to detail and care. You said, this is unsatisfying. Let's reshoot it. Let's add something.
And adding depth to the character as well, all the way through to the way that they die. I feel like Final Destination has always done a really, really good job about keeping the character true to the personality that's supposed to be portrayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's like, this character, I guess, is supposed to be the smart one in the family. And she's the only one who can see the death, and as she studied the notes from the grandmother. But like other than that, there wasn't anything interesting about like how they determined the order, like how they figure out what order everyone's going to die in. And like in the third one, they even did it, like you said, a step further of how they're going to die and trying to prevent it that way. So there was a lot that was missing from this one. But I do think that at the end of the day, doing the gore CGI primarily, doing like fake computer generated gore was the biggest mistake of this movie, like to the nth degree. I think if you did this exact same movie, the exact same way, every death the exact same, and the plot and the acting and everything that we hate about it, but the gore was 100% practical, it would have brought the score up probably like 3 points for me. Like that big of a difference. Like it would have made this movie an actual one that I would recommend to people because of how like it would have been better. Like because I would have been like, oh, you get what you want out of Final Destination, which is weird, crazy, fucked up kills.
And I didn't really notice it until you guys brought it up because the authenticity just felt a little bit off to me, and I just thought because of the technological advancements that we have faced, but really it's just being lazy.
Yeah, I think that Daniel's right. I think that it alludes to like when I say when he said it feels like a cash grab. I'm like, yeah, because if you really made this for Final Destination fans because you loved this movie, because there was passion behind it, because there was like we missed these movies and we want to bring these back, and how come Scream gets to come back and have a a resurgence of fans and coming back and loving this movie again, but we don't, okay. Great, do that, and let's do it like Final Destination. But this was like, nah, remember that movie people liked? Let's make one of those again. Don't worry about all the fucking gore and shit. Just fucking do it in post. In post. That's just do it in post.
That was my feeling. Is like when you find out, like, and this was the third one, by the way. It wasn't even the first. So it's easy to not care by the third one. But even the third one, they're like, let's reshoot this. This doesn't feel satisfying. Let's reshoot it. This movie, that was the exact phrase I thought of. They were like, fix and post.
Right.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said about that. It's like, it's interesting to see, like, they were like, let's show this to people and see what they think. And then when they say this is not satisfying, I'm like, there's no fucking way you showed this to anyone. You did not market research this or group test this, because there's no shot any fucking fan of this franchise would have said, yeah, do it CGI. They would not have agreed to that.
Yeah.
At all. At all. Even the Saw X, which is the fucking 10th movie in that series, even they had had practical effects. The girl cutting off her fucking leg looked practical. It looked real.
No joke.
And I was like, if they came back with Saw and did a fucking CGI gore in Saw, I would have been fucking furious.
Oh, man, yeah.
And there was a Saw that had a lot of CGI effects in it, and I was like, fuck this movie. And everyone fucking hated it.
Yeah.
And I did too. And Daniel didn't even go see it. Daniel refused to even see that one. I was like, yeah, that's what happens when you do a fucking glossy fucking Hollywood version of this movie. I'm like, these movies started as these small indie projects and they had heart and soul because of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's why you fucking love it, man. And they just got rid of a lot of that, and it's so disappointing. So that's why I'm like, I think if you want to see this movie, do not spend money on it. Like, go see it when it's on streaming.
Yeah.
You know, watch it maybe during, like I said, during Halloween season or something where you could justify watching this movie. But I'm telling you, like, if you love blood, guts, and gore and kills, this movie's going to disappoint you. And I feel disappointed. Like, I feel like Daniel's enraged. Like, he's like, I fucking hated this shit. And I'm like sad. I'm like, man, I actually really liked the Final Destination series. And I have fond memories of spending time with my wife watching all 5 movies and us enjoying and laughing. And it's just like a good bonding experience, you know? And then just for this one to be that disappointing, it's just like, it hurts, man. I'm like, man, I feel like you're fucking ruining something for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
You're taking something that I cared about and ruining it. Fuck you for that. And I just like, I hate having to feel that way.
Yeah, and it is an experience making sure, like, when you're watching the movie, that especially this time frame that has passed, you would think that the heart and soul would be there times 10 because they had so much intention to make sure that the audience was satisfied, that Final Destination stayed true to itself.
Yeah, like there's no no one was like there's no shot there was a deadline for this movie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But there was a bloodline. The problem with that, like my genuine thought is, it's like, you have not made one of these for fucking 14 years. There's no shot any studio was like, hey, can y'all wrap that up? We need to get this movie out there. No fucking way. You had all the time in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You could have, even if you said, you know what, let's make this low budget and therefore it's going to take us another fucking 2-3 years to make this movie on top of what we've already done. Fine, do that. I wasn't fucking waiting. I wasn't on the edge of my seat waiting for the next Final Destination. It's been 14 fucking years. No one would have cared if this movie came out in 2027 because we didn't even know it was coming out.
Tony Todd had a deadline.
Oof.
But they filmed his scene already.
Oof.
You don't know that.
That's in bad taste. That's in bad taste. How dare you?
Too soon?
That's what I'm saying. If you took another 2 years and you already shot his scene, come on. So I don't know. I just think that, and again, honestly, it's disrespectful to Tony Todd because he is the face of this fucking franchise, and you pull this shit on him. How dare you?
Yeah, he's the fucking glue.
He the glue, man.
Yeah.
Hey, part of it too is that they don't like these. This was directed by. As soon as I saw the credits, I was like, oh, this was directed by not people who directed the previous ones.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that always works out. Because let's not forget that who directed Spiral, it was Darren Lynn Bousman, one of the original directors of the early Saws. So it doesn't always work out, but I'm just saying, like, I know that the first one was directed by the same guy who directed the third one. And then they did like a hop skip thing. So the guy who directed the second one directed the fourth one. Again, I thought the fourth one was trash, so it doesn't always work, but you have a connection to how to make these movies and what you're going for.
Yeah, but the reason why those are trash is not the reasons this one was trash. That's the issue. Because you feel that way coming from someone, from a filmmaker's perspective, from a film lover's perspective. But Natalia wouldn't say that about any of those movies. because she's a lover of Final Destination. So that's what I'm saying. I think as a lover of Final Destination, I'm disappointed by this movie. And if you had those guys, they probably would have done practical kills, and they probably would have found something better than a fucking MRI machine in a hospital to kill somebody with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge reach. Enraged by that. But I mean, I think what you guys were saying about like, we'll just fix it in post. I think the reason why they were like, let's just fucking get on with it is because they knew people would come to see it because the plot is it's Final fucking Destination. There's a premonition, there's an order, they're dying in that order, you know, chop chop, get done with it. And that was really all that mattered to me, coming from, you know, people that know a lot about film. I don't have these sorts of perspectives, which is why I was very happy with the plot line. Because it's something different, you know, like the only order is youngest to oldest and people, you know, making love and having babies. And so I thought that was unique and I was satisfied with the different take.
My favorite part of this movie was probably just the way that they did the premonition being from a previous time and the Bloodlines aspect of it. I think like the Bloodlines aspect is the best part, just because I was like, you got to find a way to do something new and creative with the premonition and the order and all of that stuff. I think they did a pretty good job, and I like the idea of all those other ones. And I was like, it actually kind of opens it up to more sequels of just showing other families and when they figure this shit out or whatever. My least favorite part of this movie, spoiler alert, was the CGI deaths. I mean, it's like, I mean, we what more can we say about it, honestly?
My favorite part, I will have to agree with David, is the different aspect of Final Destination order being Bloodlines. Spoiler alert, the Final Destination Bloodlines movie does have to do with blood and lines. I really did appreciate the fact that they tried to switch it up. It was executed okay. The illegitimate child thing was something that you could see from a mile away. Not that I saw it, but I really did appreciate that they tried to do something, because for the rest of the movie, worst part was just the laziness of the kills. So basically identical to what David just said, except cooler because I said it. But the CGI was lacking a whole lot of emotion that I thought that I would feel throughout this movie. The intro was very satisfying because the vision is always such a pinnacle part of the movie, and I think that was executed very well, and then the rest of the movie just fell off for me as the kills went on.
Now, do you think that we corrupted you at all? Just like in the fact that like when we walked out of the movie, you were dancing and jittering and telling us how excited and happy you were with everything. But as Wild Dreams, you know, as we do this podcast, I mean, I feel like even Daniel and I are getting to a point where we're like, we know what we're going to think about a movie by the end of the podcast because we do this so often now. But every time you are on the podcast, I feel like we corrupt you into hating whatever movies you enjoy. That's what I was just about to say. Is I feel like every time I'm on the podcast, you can tell the way that I view the movie, and then as the podcast goes on, as the episode progresses, I start to see it from your guys' perspective, because you do have a different view of a lot of stuff that I just don't have that knowledge. And so it does urge me to see it from a different perspective. Of course, you corrupted me. I say that every day of my life. I say, Dave and Dan always corrupt me. Please get him out of my life. And then I come back. But yeah, you definitely corrupted me, because I just look at it from a different perspective, and it just feels lazy because I don't think of CGI the way that they do the gore. I just think that it feels funny or something feels off, and you guys just put it into a black and white perspective and you put it into words for me. And that's what we do here at Wild Dream. We make you hate the shit you like.
We guarantee it. You're going to hate the shit you like.
Hey, put that on our new logo. New logo for the new year coming up in August, by the way, guys.
Questions? Or is this podcast even going to exist?
And it's
you
my
decide.
birthday.
Wait. Did we tell anybody that this is being recorded prior to the 100th episode?
All right. Here's what I'll say. If the podcast does end like for real, for any reason, we just don't have the time for it anymore. We will always do a spooktacular. I think that's like we'll at least come back for
every year. We will come back to do the podcast for 2 months out of the year. Every year.
My least favorite part of the movie was how fake everything looked. Not even just the kills, but all the sets, all of the glossy fucking bullshit, all the motion blur, all the lens flares, all the green screen. It fucking looked like shit. It looked like garbage. I didn't like it.
If you really, really liked the aesthetic of this movie when you saw it, go watch Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. I guarantee it.
Also,
You're gonna hate what you love.
we never mentioned the music, but it's the same.
There's a reason.
Yeah, it's the same in all of the Final Destinations, though. They all have fucking shitty, copyright-free sounding music.
Yeah.
But it was bad. And my favorite part of the movie, I honestly think the most I enjoyed the movie for a split second was when they made a joke about killing a baby. Because they figured out that if you kill someone to sacrifice to death, then you get their remaining allotted amount of time that they were going to live. And they're like, interesting, how would we even know how much time that they would have? And they look over at a nursing ward and with a bunch of freshly born babies. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, this is a really funny joke.
Don't touch those babies. Don't touch those babies.
It was happening during what you mentioned where, God, it took for fucking ever for the youngest brother to finally fucking die. So it was delaying even further what we were here for. But
it was a funny joke.
But it was a funny joke that worked, and those two characters are great, and they should have been in a better movie. I liked that scene. It made me legitimately laugh. So now one of the jokes that fucking swing and a goddamn miss was the garbage truck driver listening to Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
I was like,
he was scrolling on Tinder.
Yeah.
What was it, Finder, whatever the fuck?
Yeah, whatever, fake version of Tinder that they had to do. I was like, this was a swing and a miss of comedy. But yeah, I thought that was funny.
I am giving this movie a 3 out of 10. I think it's closer to a 2 than a 4. As a Final Destination movie, I will give it a 5 out of 10.
I am going to say, just because it reignited a little spark in me and did genuinely bring me joy to feel those feelings of, instead of rewatching the old ones over and over again, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I do have much higher ratings, up to 9 and 9.5 for the other Final Destinations, if that puts anything into perspective. So yeah, overall unsatisfied.
That's the first time I've ever heard that from a woman. I give this one a 1.5 out of 10. I thought it was absolute dog shit. I will never watch this movie ever again. I will never see this again, and I'll be better off for it. And that's my rating.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm rewatching all of the Saw movies, I do skip Jigsaw. Mm-hmm. Every single time. That movie fucking sucks. But I will watch Saw X. So, I feel the same way. If I was like, I'm going to go rewatch all the Final Destination movies, I would probably void this one.
Yeah.
Personally.
This one and the fourth one.
I'm never going to watch the fifth one either. Just from what I've seen, it looked fucking terrible. So
I already told you the best part of that movie. The best part of it is the reveal at the end.
The story is ambitious. That's why what I missed about this one. The story and the reveal. Even the small thing of if it turns out that you get the lifespan of the person that you killed if you sacrifice someone to death. So the dude at the end is like, holy shit, I really did it. I killed someone at a fucking, a warehouse. So I passed it on. And he goes to his funeral, and then because he's feeling bad. And then someone goes, it's a shame what happened. But, they actually found this rare blood disease he had. He was going to die any day. And he's like, wait, what? And then the fucking airplane crashes in and kills him from the first movie.
Yeah, and a piece of the airplane debris. I loved that.
Their story elements are fucking fantastic in the fifth one. But
and it spikes your adrenaline. It gives you a little bit of buildup right before the big reveal, instead of being like, okay, drag it on. I know what's going to happen. Let's just see it already. But yeah.
Yeah, it would have been cool to get something in
this one. You have the doctor go, for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's really silly. But yeah, it was way more ambitious than that. And, but yeah, I saw the acting and fucking, what's the dude's name? David Koechner is in that movie in number 5, and he just gets hit in the face with a wrench. and dies, and I was like, that's one of your kills? Really? Like,
Yeah.
And almost every death in the 5th one is just impaling. You get impaled by this, impaled by this, impaled by this. I was like, the only one I appreciated was the gymnast one. But yeah. So I will not be watching 5. I'll never watch this one again, man. Sorry, guys. I hated this one. Okay, that is all for David today. He is done with today's episode, but we are going to have a special part 2 starting now. We have our lovely producer, frequent guest, frequent collaborator in everything we do. Taylor is here. And Taylor, do you want to introduce what this game is that we are about to play?
Yes, this is Final Destination Death Trivia. Or Crazy Deaths Trivia.
Okay.
So what I'm going to be doing is telling you what the death was, and you have to tell me if it was Final Destination or if it was a real, this happened in real life death.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
so ready.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I'm ready.
Is there a both option?
You'll find out.
Oh my goodness.
All right, first one. A man tripped over the open dishwasher door and was impaled on knives sticking up out of the cutlery tray.
Real life.
Real life.
You are both correct. That was real life.
All right.
Let's
go.
fucking go.
All right. A man was struck by an ambulance, killing him instantly.
Final Destination.
Which one?
Or both. Both. I feel
It
like
is
that.
both.
Yes!
Which
It is
one? Which
both.
one? I know which one.
Final Destination 4.
Correct. It is 4.
But it was both. Yes. Alrighty. A woman was killed by a falling restaurant sign. Then the sign was knocked over by high winds, landed on a pickup truck, killed her, and injuring her husband.
Real life.
I'll say real life.
I would say there's not a single time that Final Destination just left someone injured.
I know, right?
Yes, it was real life.
Yes.
And it was a Taco Bell sign.
Let's go.
Oh my god, Taco Bell dangerous, dude.
Taco Bell's
my
dangerous.
gosh.
I'm
Okay.
hungry too. Fuck. Because the death, not the Taco Bell.
Yes.
Because it did.
A woman was killed by a tire thrown from a car and immediately decapitated.
Final Destination 4. No, this might be both. This might be both.
I think this is real life because when the tire hits people in Final Destination, they don't get decapitated, they explode.
I'm gonna say both.
Wrong. It was Final Destination. I could not find a case of this happening in real life.
Damn!
It was during the racetrack scene.
Oh! The racetrack team. It was the blonde one.
It was the blonde lady. She got her head taken off. Okay, this one is hard. This one's hard, guys.
Okay.
That's what she said.
A man was killed after his head was trapped in an elevator door, and he was partially decapitated after the elevator ascended.
That's real life because in Final Destination, it's a woman.
I agree.
I labeled it as both because it happened to a woman as well. Also, it's Final Destination.
That was Final Destination. That was the one with the pileup, so that has to be 2.
It was number 2.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we have 2
By the
more.
way, a little trivia since we are in part 2.
Yes.
That was inspired by a real life thing that happened where a woman's was with her husband and she got decapitated by an elevator like that, and he was stuck in that elevator with his wife's severed head for 3 hours.
3
That's
hours.
insane.
Yep.
Oh my
Horrible, isn't
goodness.
it?
That is
Yeah.
horrible.
Horrific.
Has anybody ever seen, what was the name of that movie?
Eye Origins.
Eye Origins. That movie.
What was the movie with the eyes,
stuck
and
with
where
me
did it
for
come
a
from?
hot minute.
Eye Origin.
Eye Origins. Eye Bloodlines. I did not see this movie.
She said the thing, though. She said the thing. She gets it.
I get it. All right, last 2. A man was impaled by a wrench, which was launched into the air. He was pronounced dead at the scene.
Final Destination 5.
Final Destination 4.
I don't know which one, but it is Final Destination.
That's the freaking guy. That's the guy we were just talking
It
about.
was.
David Koechner.
Yeah, David.
Oh, it was? Okay.
The guy from Anchorman, yeah.
Yeah, Eggman.
All right, last one.
Here we go.
A woman was electrocuted when she stepped on a cast iron plate that was covered in electrical wiring in a deep puddle.
That's real life because Clear never stepped in the puddle in the first one.
I'll say Final Destination since we have been having the same answers this whole time.
Because we're too good, because
let's
we're
do
too
it.
good.
I'll say Final Destination.
It did happen in real life.
Oh,
It did happen in
Natalia
real life.
wins.
That is it for trivia today, guys.
Thank you,
for
Taylor.
joining me.
That
That was fun.
I went on
That
a
was
deep
great.
rabbit hole that is going to continue after I hop off here.
She's gonna get on the
Very.
final destination, or she's gonna be just like me,
Yes.
spreading my disease.
Absolutely.
Very incredible. Thank you so much for doing that for us, Taylor. We appreciate you. That was a fun game. Natalia, congratulations on your win in the game, but also thank you so much for recording with us. It was great to have you back.
It was great to be here.
And you have our number, so whatever next movie you really want to see, hit us up, and we'll do a pod for it. Until next time, don't forget that we are also streaming as well, so you can come interact with us if in the chat if you want to, because we are live streaming on Twitch at Wild Dream Stream on Twitch on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And if you want to interact with our socials for that page, you can actually reach us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We are at Wild Dream Stream on all of those platforms. Now, if you want to interact with us for podcast reasons, you still can. You can reach us at Wild Dream Pod on Instagram. So come say hi. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Let us know what you thought of Final Destination Bloodlines. And let us know what you thought of the Final Destination series. School us if you will. But until next time, we love you, but we also...
Kiss you.
That is correct. Good night.
I can tell you're pointing it.